Today's problem is people who are close to you who annoy you. Okay. They may be annoying for many different reasons, but for today, I want to focus on the reason of saying things that annoy you, right? Um, Basically, they're inconsiderate, they like to make fun of you, they say things about topics that you're very passionate about, but like say completely wrong things, and it annoys you. Okay, so obviously, the easiest solution to this is you want them to not be like that, right? And if you could, depending on your personality, have less involvement in it, it would be good, right? So if you, even if you're shy, it's obvious. Like you want them, you don't want to have that like difficult conversation about. I want you to stop saying those things. But at the same time, even if you are the person who doesn't shy away from tough conversations, it's generally preferable to not have the need to talk about those things at all, right? So what we have to understand is that desire, while it's perfectly fine to have, it doesn't really stop anyone from changing their behavior, right? And moreover, you can have the difficult conversation about, hey, I really want you to stop behaving like this. But at the same time, what stops them from not listening to you? And now it's a twofold like difficulty, right? You've had this difficult conversation that you didn't want to have, and the problem is not solved. And the more this goes on, the more you want to leave this relationship, the more you want to leave. But then what if it's not a situation? What if it's not like a, relationship that you can readily leave? For example, you have a job for your survival and you don't have a lot of money saved up, but your boss is the one who's annoying you. And in these types of cases, it's really difficult for you to navigate the situation because you can't just quit, right? Of course, you could quit and you could find another job, but at the same time, it's much less preferable, right? So, we can go on and on and on and on, wishing things were different. We can go on and on and on and on about wishing that things outside of us bended for our wills, right? We want to be in a situation where we don't really have to exert a lot of energy. But we have to, why I'm emphasizing this so much is that no matter how much you desire it, there's no guarantee that you're gonna get it. So, does this mean that we are absolutely doomed? No, there's still things we can do, right? And that thing we can do is try and understand. Okay, but now, you understand that people generally act a certain way for a certain reason, right? And you could try to understand and be like, yeah, I guess, like, they have reasons why they could say that. But when you don't fully commit to understanding them, their perspective, their life, what warrants them to act and say those things, it becomes something that you endure, right? And when you endure, it takes energy. So although you can try, there comes a point in time where you simply cannot because your patience runs out. And it is at these moments where the last straw in the back and then you just explode. So what's the right kind of approach to this situation? The right kind of approach to situation in terms of reducing your suffering is you gotta really be curious about why this person saying something, doing something is so damn triggering to you. And now you have to try and shape and make flexible that part. So, suppose I have a boss who is overly critical of everything that I do, right? And now, when you go meet the boss for a one-on-one or every time you casually walk by and or like any other meetings that you have with the boss, it's just like an open poop fest. and the boss just shits on you all the time. And now this can be very, very discouraging. But you can't just quit because of circumstances. Then in this case, you stop and think, why? Why is this so triggering, right? And it's because, well, I'm just here and the boss is just like blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then now we can get to some kind of a problem solving. Okay. The things that the boss is saying, is it like actually true? Do I actually have flaws? Then you can be curious about what is that flaw. And now the thing you can do is this an actual shortcoming that you can also see from an objective perspective? Or is this a kind of a personal preference? So I organize my room this way. But if you have a different style, you might not like this, and you happen to be my supervisor, you may give me a negative performance review because I organize my room like this, right? But that's just kind of an unfortunate situation. But now what you can do is you cannot take this personally. And of course, is it really unfair that you get judged for personal preferences like this? It's not. But that's something you can do. That's something you can deal with by going to HR, by reporting up to the the reporting chain and things like that. Because these are like actually civil and just things that can be amended, that can be surfaced up. And I think the third category is things that are just particularly sensitive to you. So suppose that you have kind of a childhood trauma of being embarrassed in front of everyone, right? And now, some people can take a joke especially when they're the butt of a joke. But when you have these traumatic experiences like this, it can be very, very difficult, even in the same situation, to kind of like just pass it on, right? Especially when compared to people who don't have these types of traumas. So, in these cases, you have to understand that there's no way for people to know what you are sensitive about. So in these cases, it's very beneficial for you to communicate these things. And of course, it's embarrassing and it's kind of like vulnerable for you to share these things, right? Okay, but then you have to pick and choose. Is it more preferable for you to have that little bit of vulnerability but reduce the chance of these things coming up? Or is it better for you to just not show your vulnerable side but just hurt in the inside? Neither are really that great options. And to solve this issue, you have to really work on your trauma, which in my worldview is you come to an awakening of realizing that there's nothing to be traumatized about. But that's a video for later. But what I'm saying is, when you become genuinely curious about why this is so triggering to you, then there are opportunities of debugging this situation arise. So another example, suppose your spouse, whether it be a husband or a wife, they have a way of just like driving you crazy. Suppose it's like how they chew their food, or suppose it's like a kind of a verbal habit that they have that really just gets on your nerves. And then you can start thinking about why is this so upsetting to me, right? And oftentimes it's because it really nags something inside of you, right? There's like this tender spot in your heart that doesn't like to be triggered. For example, like you always found your mom and dad arguing because of how like your dad chewed the food, and then your mom gets upset, and then it brings about this whole chain of things that you don't want to feel. And then now you see your like significant other chewing food exactly like that, and then it drives you crazy. Or you happen to be particularly passionate about a certain cause, right? And then your significant other just starts like kind of bashing on that, not knowing. So when you get curious about why you are so sensitive to this, it helps you understand you so that you can start making an action plan. And now, of course, I understand that sometimes it really feels like other people are in the wrong and other people should change. And that's completely warranted, right? Other people sometimes should change. Like when people are engaging in violence, they should not engage in violence. But even with all the rules and systems in the world, it doesn't stop people from still breaking the law, stealing catalytic converters, shooting people, stealing from people, mugging people, and things like that, right? So the whole point of this exercise is to lessen your suffering by bringing insight to yourself so that we don't become dependent on other people to make us happy, and more importantly, we don't depend on other people to not provide us with suffering. And ultimately, I want you, the viewer, to be happy and suffering free from the world regardless of what people do. And there will be more nuanced topics that will feel like it's really difficult to not suffer from. But this video is about people close to you.